Alright guys, Crim 20, Chapter 3. We're going to talk about jails. I did kind of briefly talked about the difference between prisons and jails during the last PowerPoint. But hopefully we all know that jails are typically going to be local facilities that are run by your local sheriff's department. And again, in Fresno, the Fresno County Jail is run by the Fresno County Sheriff. That's Margaret Mims. So she not only supervises the deputies in Fresno County, so the Fresno County Sheriff's Department, the actual deputies that go out and police the streets, she also runs a very large correctional facility, being the Fresno County Jail. So they are locally operated correctional facilities that confine persons before and after adjudication. So that just means before and after trial. So we are talking about people being housed in jail for after they've been sentenced and while they're awaiting trial. So I could be in the Fresno County Jail for a DUI, and I could be in the Fresno County Jail for a murder. You have everything in between, because the DUI person might have been sentenced, the murderer could be awaiting trial. So you can imagine the kind of uncertainty that takes place within a jail, especially one like Fresno. We've got a big jail. We've got a lot of violent offenders. We've got a lot of gang activity. We've got a lot of mental illness. We've got a lot of drug use. Pretty much you name it, we got it in Fresno County. So it's an interesting place. I wish that we had the opportunity to tour it this semester, but that's clearly not going to happen. But in England, the first term for jail was gaol, and the first one was built in 1166. 1773, this dude, John Howard, was the sheriff of Bedfordshire in England. I don't know if he was just bored or what, but he decided that he was going to go around in his country and see what was going on in the jails, how they were being run, what the conditions were like, and he was horrified. He saw, as you can imagine, think back, 1773. Can you imagine what does the picture look like in your head of what a jail might look like back then? I'm picturing, a person chained to a brick wall. But there was disease, lack of discipline, lack of sanitation. You can imagine abuse, starvation. It was ugly, and he realized that something needed to change. In the United States, the Walnut Street Jail was, I think I paused on accident. So, okay, now I got all confused as to where I was. So, I think that we were still talking about jails, but I think I paused, and then I didn't pause, and then I had to pause because my husband or my son came in here making a bunch of noise. Anyways, you don't care about that. 1790, Walnut Street Jail was the first jail in the United States. Sheriff, we talked about who our sheriff here in Fresno County is Margaret Mims. She is elected, which is interesting because the police chief, if you think about it, who used to be Jerry Dyer, the police chief is not elected, but the sheriff is. I know, interesting, right? Demographics. This is as of 2013, so obviously these demographics are about 7 years old. So 231 out of every 100,000 people are in jail, mostly male, white, unconvicted, meaning they're still pending trial. An average length of stay, 15 to 20 days. That might become important later. Just saying. What do they do? Daily operations. Booking is an area that's really cool to visit because there's so much going on. Tons of activity in booking, because in the Fresno County Jail and any of the bigger jails. But booking is where offenders are identified, fingerprinted, photographed, interviewed, They meet with typically they will meet with a nurse. They will typically have a discussion about their mental health as well. Now I'm sure they're COVID tested also. Before COVID, I'm sure that was not the case, but and ultimately they get classified, meaning there are certain correctional officers who work specifically on classification. They decide which offenders go to which units, pods, whatever you want to call them, floors, that would be most appropriate for that particular offender and for the jail. For example, you don't want to put a bulldog gang member with some sort of a gang member that doesn't like bulldogs. Or you don't want to throw a Sureño gang member in with a bunch of bulldogs. It would be bad. In fact, there's almost one entire floor that I think is almost all bulldogs. So you don't want to make the bulldogs comfortable there, but you also want to keep the facility safe. So, or any particular gang. I'm just using the bulldogs because it's obviously the largest gang in our area. So, you also don't want to put some very small, frail male in with, aggressive sex offenders. It gets, it's tricky trying to figure out where to put everybody, and you can't always guarantee everyone's safety. They just have to do the best they can to classify people appropriately. There's all kinds of, I don't have pictures for this, darn it. There's pictures in your book for this. Think of a long hallway with a desk at one end and cells all along the side. Not particularly safe. There are different designs to prisons, and they have throughout time evolved to become much more safe. If you go to the Fresno County Jail now, it's interesting. They have the correctional officers are in a little area, a raised area, separate from all of the offenders, and the offenders are in separated pods. I wish I had a picture of this to show you. This is one PowerPoint that I have not taught online before, and I might have to work on this. Prison design. But think about a question like, does the design of a prison have anything to do with its safety? Of course it does. If you have a poorly designed prison, safety can become an issue. You've got long hallways where you can't see what's going on at the end. That can become an issue. What kind of issues are there in jail? Overcrowding, 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 overcrowding. We know this in California. Fresno County Jail has thousands of inmates. Thousands of inmates. I want to say we're talking between 3,000 and 4,000 inmates. And they're typically busting at the seams and have to release people fairly frequently. So what kind of other issues do they have? Mental illness. This is a significant issue in our prisons and jails right now. A lot of people are mentally ill, and their mental illness leads them to drug use, sometimes in order to self-medicate because of their mental health issues. Mental health issues plus drug use equals erratic, sometimes violent behavior. I'm guessing you can imagine how this can really get ugly in a jail type situation. We have a lot of single cell rooms in the Fresno County Jail where people are on watch basically 24/7. It's pretty sad, actually. And mental health staff within a typical jail is crisis only. So they're not going to receive a lot of in-depth mental health services because they don't offer that in jail. Jails weren't designed for that. They were designed for short-term housing. Another significant issue, much more likely to happen in jail than in any other time in the criminal justice process, is suicide. The uncertainty and confusion and just chaos of those first couple weeks in jail. I mean, imagine if you ended up in jail and you thought you were going to lose everything. It could be something that could push you over the edge pretty easily. A lot of people. So that's another significant issue in our jails. And that's it.